Hello and welcome to Body of Knowledge, where we believe that the body helps make knowledge. Okay. Okay, good. I lost everyone who's not interested with that pause. Wonderful. Yeah, so the first thing I want to start out with is I started these videos as field notes as a way to explore my PhD journey, my dissertation, my research, and all the things that go along with it. And so oftentimes these videos are a little unhinged, but I'm also sharing them publicly, probably because I have a Leo stellium in the first house. That would be my guess. And I just don't know who is gonna watch them, if anyone is gonna watch them. Sometimes it's like 7 people, and then the last video I did that I tried, because I knew it was field notes, I tried to make like an non-clickbait title. Like I tried to make a boring title, but that was also descriptive and people were clicking, so I changed it again because I realized afterwards there was like zero context whatsoever. And if I watched that video and I didn't know what was going on, I don't know. I don't know that I would be happy. So I'm hoping to keep the unhinged energy because, there's something quixotic, something whimsical about it that I think is important. But what I will try to do is connect the dots, give context, finish my thoughts, trying to explain why things are important and why I'm doing them, which is good practice for all of life. I find that I'm frequently sharing only one aspect of something and there's like a whole iceberg beneath it. So I'm gonna try to be more complete in my expressions. What I'm thinking of today is going back to okay, I'm gonna start context. This is so hard. So I did put word and feeling intentions to my intention for the next solar cycle, my solar goal, as I like to call it. And as I mentioned before, this one is much less smart, smart goals, and more feelings based. And in a breathwork practice that I came across a few years ago, there was an exercise that I liked, which was breathing into the heart, and with each inhale and exhale, imagining it expanding in 8 directions, aka all directions, aka in infinity directions, and just feeling that pulse of energy. And so when I went into my meditative space to set my intention, what I like to do is imagine, visualize what I want, and then finding a place in my body that feels good. That's such a critical aspect of my embodied goal setting process, is making sure that from word 1 it feels good. And it's random. I've had all kinds of feelings come up. I think the hardest part of this intention setting process is not forcing anything, but rather allowing the body time and space to feel and express. And so this feeling is what came up that felt really good and very suited. And then I worked to put words to the intention as something that I can return to. And so at first I said my energy expands in all directions. And then I thought well, I don't always actually want to be in expansion. maybe the universe is expanding all the time, but I am a finite human. I am finite, bringing in some Spinoza definitions. Or was that an axiom? I don't know. I can't remember. I can't keep going and going and going. So I actually don't want to start with an intention that has me in this endless growth. So I said flow. My energy flows in all directions, and that leaves space for bidirectional flow, that leaves space for contraction as well as expansion. So my energy flows in all directions as I am supported by interior and exterior systems that aid in the process of my becoming. It's a little wordier perhaps than I would typically do, but also this is a solar goal. Usually this feelings-based intention setting process I use more for the lunar cycles, so it's more about a shorter exploration. And so I really wanted, because I'm using this one for so long, I really wanted to be precise in my meanings. And so what I've been working on this, just letting it sit, letting it settle, reminding myself that there is a reason that I am taking the time that I'm taking, as opposed to let's get this done. And so right now, I lost my primary care doctor, and it's just not been important to me to find one. And so I'm okay, that's something I need to do. And so I think I found someone, and then I have to wait 3 or 4 months to meet with them, and going through the forms, talking about my family history and medical history and all of those things. That was an interesting embodiment exercise, and actually feeling how much shame that I felt, surprisingly, both for my problems and the problems I've had in the past, but also I was asking what supplements and things are you taking, and medicines, and I was oh my god, and I love my little supplements, and I'm thinking of these experiments that I've been doing, some with the practitioner and some on my own, and just feeling there's so much weight there beyond physical symptoms. So that's one thing I'm doing, going back to just diet. I do a lot of movement. I've been doing more strength training in the last maybe 9 months, but I didn't adjust my diet to add protein. I'm on a plant-based diet, and so protein is already, I think I was getting adequate protein. That's been proven that vegans and vegetarians definitely get enough protein, but when I'm adding intensity, then I have to bring in that support. And it's just so annoying. Honestly, truthfully, I'm I have to do this every single day because it's just annoying to think about. But giving myself time to do that. So really focusing on that, and then also just listening to the cues of my body. And so what brought this up for me to talk about this today was yesterday I had, I guess, a good academic day. I finished a book, and it wasn't, I'll talk about it in my March wrap-up, but it wasn't a book necessarily that I would recommend. It's called Sex, God, and the Brain, and I thought it would be very interesting, but it seemed like it was more interested in upholding the status quo, and if there was any change involved, it was lateral changes, and I'm always looking for more liberatory philosophies. In any case, I finished that book. I thought it was important. I think it's important to read from that perspective, it was from like God really meant Christian God. And so I thought that was an important book to read, just because like I did grow up Southern Baptist and very immersed in purity culture, very immersed in like sin-based, fear-based culture, but I have been out of the church for a very long time and live totally different now. So it's like good to go back to that voice, to that lens, to that perspective, because even though it might not be as intense for everyone, because Christianity played such a role in colonialism, it does infuse a lot of people's lives, whether they know it or not. So if I'm I missed a connection. So thinking about pleasure again, and thinking about how to still use my past research and my current research, I was thinking how to get back in, and two things that come up when I talk about pleasure are sex and shame. And so I was like, okay, well, let me think about sex. Maybe sex, maybe desire, these more erotic emotions, and like actually deep dive into them. So that's why I was reading this book, and that's why it felt important to kind of get the underlying messages and assumptions, and also finding that those tensions, the points of disagreement, so that in my writing I can flip them into what I believe is a more liberatory framework. So I'm sitting on my feet. I need to change how I'm sitting. Oh no. Okay. Can I do it? Yes. Success. Okay. So that's why I was reading that book. I'm trying to bring tension into my research that is not predicated on attacking other scholars. A lot of times that's what's happening in scholarship, is like needing to disprove other people. And so I'm not thinking about that book and that particular author as somebody that I want to be in a combative relationship with. Rather, I was thinking about cultural assumptions about desire, about pleasure, about sex, about shame, and these being the tensions, and bringing to light, shedding light on different aspects of these states of being, rather than finding one particular person to vehemently disagree with. Okay, I'm gonna pause. Okay, I had to remember where I was going with that. So good day yesterday, a good scholarly day. And I read that book at the gym, listened to it, and finished the book. I did like an hour on the treadmill. Not fast, not running, just like to move my body. Because as I mentioned before, movement is helping with some of my symptoms. And then I did my strength training, and then I did some flexibility training, and I ended up finishing the book while I was there. And I felt really good after I left. I think it was probably like all of that warming up, and then the mobility exercise, flexibility exercises afterwards. I just felt so loose and flowy, and it felt so good. But I was also tired after that, and then I had to go to work and things like that. So I didn't get any writing done, and then my perfectionist brain kicked in and was just like, you did nothing yesterday, which is objectively untrue. but there's a voice in my head that is like, if I don't hit some like moving goalpost, then it's like all or nothing. It's a very challenging way to live. I don't recommend it. And so that was kind of stressing me out today, that feeling. And then it was like, well, since you did nothing yesterday, you need to make up for it today. And so I found another book to read, and this one I'm actually not specifically seeking out Christian texts, but this one I went to my book wish list and I had to put this book, I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, it had desire in the title and something about beauty and communication and God. And so I was like kind of expecting God, the Christian God, to be present. God is overtly present, and so is Jesus. And so I'm like listening to it, and I am finding it so very interesting. I think this one might actually be helpful to the research if I can like decouple it from this version of Christianity. And so I was like, okay, well, I talk about moving goalposts. I was like, okay, well, I read a whole book yesterday, so I have to read this whole book today. And I was driving to my office and I noticed the beginnings of a headache coming on, which is, that's like my body's last warning sign before I'm down for the count. So I shut it down, the book. I shut down the book, and that's where I am now and kind of what I'm wanting to talk about, but I'm not sure how yet I want to talk about it. A key aspect that I wanted to bring up was how I don't know what my body is saying often. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And I like to name this frequently because I've spent years doing this somatic work. I've spent years doing energetic work, and still there are times that I'm like, what does this mean? And I'm always learning more. Like the more attentive I am and the more that I try to listen to what my body is actually saying versus what I want it to say, or ignoring it to override it so it will do what I want. Like recently kind of coming to understand that perhaps depression, but I frequently suffer depression, and coming recently to the understanding that sometimes that's my body's way of saying that I pushed too hard. Like when in what brought this to mind was I think it was January or February. I was going to the gym, going on the treadmill to listen to my books because it was the only way that I was able to read. Now I'm back to being able to read, but then I couldn't. I'm gonna trust you to make that sentence more elegant. And so I was on the treadmill, and then I started to feel shame for just walking on the treadmill, even though I was really only there to get the movement while I was listening to the audiobook. Like I wasn't there necessarily to exercise. I was there as a movement, as medicine, and to get my texts read. But I just was like, I can't just be walking slowishly on the treadmill. And so I was like, well, I might as well run. And so many years ago, 20 years ago, I remembered that it can't have been that long ago. It was when smartphones came out. But I remember the Couch to 5K app and how it like slowly trains you into running a 5K. And so I was like, okay, that'll be titrating. Like, I'm not just gonna run. It'll be like, you know, prescriptive titration to get myself up there. And after that first time, and I don't even know the last time I ran. I don't really like running. Another layer of like, why am I doing this to myself? In any case, I don't need to get into all of the details. I did 2 sessions and then I ended up with like kind of very heavy depression, and I had no reason to be depressed. And I realized then that my body was saying like, you overextended yourself, you upped the intensity too quickly, and now you need to rest. And based on past experience, a good bout of depression is a surefire way to slow you down. So that's like an example of new information, and it's also shifted. The reason I'm bringing that up is like, today I was feeling not quite like full weight, but I was like a little bit low. And so putting all of these things together and just treating it all as an experiment, and actually listening to my body when it speaks. Like, how annoying is it when you're in a conversation with somebody and they're not listening to you? That's sometimes how it feels with my body. And so just trying to work with that, and coming back again to the idea that like cognitive work, especially trying to create new understandings, trying to create generative, original ideas, trying to understand other people's thinking, like that takes effort. And I until I got sick in May, I didn't really value how much energy and effort thinking takes. And it is so hard I've gotten better at treating my body kindly, and it's really hard to treat my mind kindly, and to be in a reciprocal relationship. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. With my body, I feel like I'm developing this reciprocal relationship of caring and being cared for, but with my mind, my thinking mind, my cognitive mind, I'm kind of realizing how often I put demands on it and just assume that it will do what I want it to do. And when it doesn't, I get very frustrated. Of course, that brings up like so many questions of self, like who is my body? Who is my mind? Who is I when I'm speaking of I? Those questions are beyond the scope of this vlog. But in any case, thinking about that and thinking about how, like, yesterday was, can I allow myself to say that yesterday was a good day for scholarship? I'm gonna try. There's part of me that is just like, wasn't good enough. So that's a struggle. I keep trying to get to a point and then I get sidetracked. And now, what am I getting to? Oh, okay. So going back to the idea of like time blocking and inner and outer systems, and supporting myself and failing to the level of my body, and taking that not as a challenge, but as an invitation to do things differently. So one thing, I've been wanting to do more dance-based movements beyond just the class that I go to, that I try to go to once a week. And so yesterday I spent 3 hours at the gym and I finished a book. And so I was obviously moving my body and strengthening my body and mobilizing my body, but I didn't get any of the more dance movements and the more rhythmic, the more artistic flowing movements in. And then after 3 hours, was it I don't think it was quite 3 hours at the gym, maybe like 2.5. I don't know. After a good long time at the gym, I came to my office and then I like took a nap before I had to go shovel snow and then go to a meeting for my new job. Can I get to the point? I'm gonna try. I'm trying to get there. I'm just gonna say the thing and then see if I can connect the dots. Maybe I don't need to. Anyways, my newest iteration of thinking, like, how can I feel to the level of my body in a good way, in a supportive way, in a way that is accepting of reality, a pragmatic way, it just occurred to me, and I haven't done it yet, but it just occurred to me, like, what if I have a scholarly day and an embodiment day? And I already hate those words that are coming out of my mouth because it's creating all kinds of separations and distinctions that I don't quite mean. And like, obviously I was working on my body especially because I was reading at the gym while I was doing the cognitive work, and also my thinking mind is in play when I'm doing embodiment work. So I don't mean it so concretely, but yeah, maybe a day of Theoria, embodied. I think the Latin way to say that is Theoria, but I'm saying Theoria because I'm thinking of Gloria and so I'll do it. But there's Theoria, poiesis, and praxis are Aristotle's tripartite division of knowledge. And so if I have a theory day, that's the day where I am engaging in ideas and input. And then maybe I can I'm thinking this through in time. Then maybe I have a poiesis day, which is this gestation time, allowing all of these things to be integrated. And praxis, I think, is just the easiest to do. It doesn't really need, in my lived experience, much prompting, especially when so much of action is externally dictated. I don't know. That's where I am now. Just sharing my thoughts as they go along. But I like this, and I do feel like it embodies some of the spirit of Catherine Dunham, who had a method, what was it, like research performance method, and that they were always tied together. Yeah, that's an area that I want to develop more to share. Sometimes that's why I think I jump and I share something without the context, because the context is there, it's in my mind, but it hasn't formed yet. But the last video, the Catherine Dunham video, that was just because I was like super excited and incoherent and just wanted to share how excited I was. So apologies to anyone who was expecting something better than that. Yeah, so thinking about that is where I am. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because I have a lot of half-developed thoughts, and rather than sharing them here, I'm gonna try to figure them out in my own brain before I share them out. But to give you a preview, I'm still thinking of like how to live a scholarly life based on Carolyn C., which I've mentioned in a couple of past videos, and like getting back into making this a lifestyle. I think at the heart, that's really what my solar goal is about. These interior and exterior systems of support, the flowing energy, the vitality of it, like it's really about creating a sustainable lifestyle, if I were to say it in a simpler way, which didn't occur to me till just now. So